Hello folks, it's Monday's episode. Yes, it's time for What Are You Doing? The show that focuses completely on you with commentary from me, your host, Chad Stanton. So we had another full week and a lot of new faces, or I guess names, to add to the show because I have not seen anyone's face on this. But I get to see what you're building. Yes, I get to see your projects in progress, or the stuff that you have completed and you want to share with us and share with the world. This is all about encouraging and inspiring other woodworkers. So, let's get right into it. Let's see, Bylin. Paul Bylin made a shaker-style quilt rack. And he said he tried his hand at some marquee inlay, and it didn't work for him, so he planed it off. But that's okay, because that's what we want to promote on this show, is getting out of our comfort zones, trying something new, whether it's you watched a video on how to do something, whether you read a book or a magazine, or you just had an idea and thought you'd take a crack at it. No problem in not getting it right the first time through. Happens to all of us. But I know Paul, he'll be back at it, and I'm sure in the very near future he's going to share something with us that will have the marquetry in it. However, I'd like to take a little point here to point out that Paul is a disabled vet. And the reason he made the quilt rack was he had a lady stop by his house who gave him a handmade quilt, and it's an organization called Quilts for Valor, and he said that vets can request a quilt because Quilts for Valor is in every state across America. And so he said it brings him a lot of comfort being a disabled vet from the Vietnam War. And he said it's nice to know that there are people and groups out there that still appreciate and still consider the sacrifices that the soldiers made for the country. So I'm going to put that link in the description below. If any of you do any kind of quilting, or if you know a family member that does and you'd like to pass this along to them, perhaps maybe get them involved, I'm sure that's a wonderful thing that you could do. So thank you, Paul. All right, moving on. This fella's new. He's been woodworking for about 3 years, and he has the coolest name ever. Yes, Chris Bauss. Is that an awesome name? Like, he's the boss. Anyhow, Chris decided to make a modern Danish console for his TV, and he said he's pretty much a gadget guy, so he added like a cooling fan down below, and I think he said some lights and that. But he made the majority of it out of maple plywood, and he mitered all 4 corners of that, which that can be tough, especially, you get something that's deeper than what your miter saw can do. If you have a big sled on your table saw, you could probably do a nice crosscut, mitered crosscut on your table saw. But I wasn't sure actually how Chris did it, but I'll tell you what, if you're trying to do that with a circular saw, that's a tricky cut to do. So anyhow, it looked nice. I really liked the legs. I do like the Danish style furniture. He said he stained it dark, probably because a lot of that furniture is done in walnut, and I know walnut can get kind of pricey. But at any rate, I think it's a great piece for his house. It definitely showcases his TV and gadgets well, and I'm sure that's not the last we're going to be seeing of Chris. Good stuff, Chris. Peter James. Yes, you know Peter. He is the fella that plays the music at the end of this show. He also is the fellow that's teaching some students how to make mandolins. And he sent this photo in to me. These were some hand planes. I love hand planes. He's got about 30. I've got over 200. Yes, that's embarrassing, but it's what I collect, all right? Give me a break. You're sounding like my wife. Anyhow, he said these planes were originally used to make violins, but he's adapted them over to making the mandolins. So pretty cool having a tool specific for the craft that he does. I like them because they look like they were homemade. I asked him if he knew who the original owners were, but nonetheless, pretty cool stuff. So Don Bullock this week, he carved a carver's mallet. And again, he said last week he didn't use the lathe a whole lot in recent years, and so he's been playing with it again. So he made this carver's mallet, and I forgot to write this down on my notes, but I'm pretty certain Don has a video to that. So if you haven't checked out, I think it's WB Fine Woodworking. I think that's his site. If not, if I said the name wrong, I'll have it correct here on the words. But if you guys want to go over to his site and see if that video is there, or check out some of his other videos, I actually really enjoy talking with Don. We talk quite a bit on email. So thank you, Don, for your photo this week. Tom Sherman. Tom, I believe, is new to the show, so welcome. And Tom also made a mallet. And what's pretty cool about this was Tom had said in his email that he hasn't done woodworking since the 80s. And watching this show, and I'm sure others too, but he said watching this show gave him the encouragement and the enthusiasm to go out in the shop. And, you know, he was kind of like downplaying the mallet. He was like, I know it's kind of small and simple. And we always say in the show, we don't judge. Big, small, it doesn't matter. You're doing something. And what was cool, he pointed out that he knows he's going to use this mallet for specifically doing future work. So that's very cool. That's very cool. I'm glad you did that. And Tom, I want you to tune in on Wednesday because I am going to talk a little bit about mallets and the ergonomics of them. They were custom. They were custom for woodworkers back in the day. Anyhow, that'll be on Wednesday. That's not today. Another Tom Bertino. Tom, in recent weeks, he sent in some photos. He made like a little tiki bar for his backyard, and his backyard's kind of decked out. He's got like a waterfall back there, and you know all kinds of stuff. And one of his buddies was joking with him and said, "Geez, Tom, your backyard has everything except a train." Well, that's all it took, because one of Tom's other hobbies and passions is trains. So he made this 85-foot long train track for his backyard. It's equipped with LED lights, and even has like the bridge that can go up and down over. He's got a series of those things. So pretty cool. I mean, we were both chuckling about it, but again, what I like is woodworking is so universal. You can apply it to other things. In this case, he took his hobby, applied it to another one. So awesome. Thanks, Tom. Gerald Jensen. Gerald made this little box or container, whatever you want to call it, and he said it's made for the Beads of Courage. And Beads of Courage is an organization that helps with sick children. And every time a child has to go in for a major ordeal, perhaps surgery, or heaven forbid, maybe they have to go in for something like chemo or radiation, they earn a bead. And then these woodworkers and different, I shouldn't just say woodworkers, I'd probably say different creators, will take the beads from the kids and they will turn them into something. So that's what Gerald did here. And again, I will put this link in the description. It sounds like a wonderful cause. If anyone out there would like to get involved, and do this to help out the sick children and be a part in their happiness and hopefully their recovery. We'll have that at the bottom for you. And just as a side point here, Gerald, I did try to reply to your email, and I don't know why it bounced back to me. It said it wasn't a good address. So I don't know if you got it or not, but I just want to let you know I did try to write you back, and maybe in the future if you could give me a different address. Okay, so let's see. We got page 1 is done, and moving on. Doc McLauren. Doc is new, and I liked his entry this week. He said it's a turned bowl, and it's made out of redwood and pine, and he said both the redwood and pine are like 70 years old. Really cool, really cool. I forget where he got what. I think he got the redwood from the client, and the pine I think was his, and he put them together. But yeah, both of the wood is that old. But what I really enjoyed about this was this bowl is being made, as I said, for a client of his, and he's never turned a bowl before. So, if you've watched some of my other videos, I had a video, the best way to learn woodworking, and I'll put that video also in the description below. Best way to learn woodworking, and I give like my top 5 best ways to learn. And well, a little spoiler fact for you. Number 1 reason, best way to learn woodworking, was to get a customer. Nothing will push you more than the customer, because we tend to take the easy route, don't we? If it's too hard, we go, I can probably do that with a dowel. I don't have to do it with a dovetail. Or, it's human nature to do what's easy and fast. But if you got a client who's specifically asking for something, it forces you to practice, to learn, to study it, and become a better woodworker. So, excellent job there, Doc. John Conklin. John and I are getting to know each other pretty good through email. He actually doesn't live too far from me here in Toledo. And so, this is kind of funny. John had a tub repair that he'd do. I think he said he had a leaking drain in this tub. And some of these houses, and I've been in a lot of houses, they don't give you an access panel to the parts for the shower faucet, or the tub in this case. And so he had to cut open the drywall, and he decided this was an opportunity, once again, for woodworking. So he made this ambrosia door, and you can see it's an inset door around the frame, and it looks really nice. And I had to joke with John that a couple of years ago, living in the old house, I had a drippy faucet in the bathroom. I think it had been dripping for 10 years. And one day I just decided, I'm going to fix it. Well, the drippy faucet, the faucet was bad. Of course, that wound up breaking. But before I could get the faucet off, I had to turn the valve off. Well, the valve broke. And, of course, when the valve broke, it released some calcium or whatever buildup in there, which made its way over to my shower, which also didn't have an access panel, and the calcium plugged up the inner parts on the shower. Long story short, what should have probably took 30 minutes to fix took 8 hours and $350 later by me. Can you imagine what that would have been if I paid a plumber? I hate plumbing. Anyways, John, I definitely know what you're going through. Over to Ireland. Yes, when we talk about Ireland, we are talking about Mark Fitzsimons. Mark, you guys have heard me. If you watch this, Mark's an amazing woodworker, and he's a guy who gets me pumped up, especially because of his skill. And he said he had a client that has a small little back porch, and what he did was he made doors and windows out of mahogany, and put that on for him. And mahogany is a great outdoor wood. Mahogany, sassafras, white oak, all great exterior woods to use. And looks great. I'm sure the homeowner, is going to sit out there more often without the bugs bothering them, and they get that view. It was kind of funny though. Mark said he was a little embarrassed because out of all the glass and the windows on there, he forgot to order one pane of glass, and he said that was embarrassing. And you know what? That's nothing, Mark. I one time put an addition on the house. I had a customer who wanted to play basketball inside and wanted a half-court, 30-foot tall ceiling, half-court made so he could do free throws. At any rate, I ordered the windows wrong in size, not once, but twice. It happens. You talk about embarrassing. Now, fortunately, the store took the windows back. No problem. It didn't cost me a thing, but it did cost time. So I had to be a little bit creative on how I scheduled to keep the project moving while I was waiting on those windows. But nonetheless, it happens to all of us. David Bishop. Now, the last couple of weeks, David has been sending in a photo at a time because I love to see the progress of the projects. He's been making a monster truck, and so it's done. And here's a quick little clip of the monster truck in progress. So pretty cool. I really liked that. It looked like the young lad at the end was thrilled with it. I imagine he would be. He's probably still playing with it. But definitely cool little truck there, David. And also, too, I'll put a link to David's site below if you guys want to go there and watch the full build. He shortens that down for me because I like either pictures or videos right around 30 seconds. So thank you, David. And yes, now we are going to California, and that means the one and only Kevin Delk. Now, Kevin is a very skilled woodworker, and on top of teaching himself woodworking, he has also taught himself how to play guitar. He's got quite the collection of guitars going, and here he restored a 70s style classical guitar. Now, he did say it's like not a valuable one. In fact, I thought he said he saw it thrown out. But nonetheless, he took an opportunity there to A, save something from going to the landfill, and B, give it life again. And I know he's going to be playing it. In fact, Kevin has even taught his son to play guitar. So I'm sure there's going to be a family jamboree in the near future there. Okay, we're going down to Australia now, where Peter Compton, Peter had a few weeks off. He's back, and he built this Welsh dresser. And I think Peter said he was doing it for his wife, and they weren't going to add stain to it. I thought he said they were leaving it all natural, but it's a nice looking piece. And I have a book on vernacular furniture. I think, I don't remember if the book was Welsh or Scottish, somewhere in that region, but it's interesting to see the different regions and the different fine details that specifically make them of that area. But nonetheless, looks great, Peter. We're glad you're back. And Peter was telling me that it's cold down there right now because, yes, it's wintertime in Australia, where here in Toledo, it's a pretty warm day, actually. So, sorry, Peter. All right, we have Ron Vieck. Ron is also new to the show. Ron has these plates that he made, and what's cool about the plates, he said it's made out of barn wood, and it was the barn that his father milked cows in 95 years ago. 95 years ago? Yeah. So, I mean, that barn has been standing a long time. Ron also has a YouTube channel. I'll throw his at the bottom. But I did a blog a while ago on storytelling for your pieces. So every piece, think of like the Antiques Roadshow, right? We tune in and watch that because usually the viewers or the guests coming in with their piece or the hosts of the show, they either know some history about it or the guest has some history of it. And that's why the show's popular, because we like to hear the story behind the piece. Also, too, we like to guess what it's worth, right? But, Ron is able to do that here with his plates. He's got a story to go with them. And, I looked at them and I thought they were cherry, and I asked him, and he thought they were cherry as well. And I said, well, that seems odd, cherry to build a barn out of cherry wood. And he said, not really, because back then they would build a barn. They would literally cut the trees down that were on the property, mill them, either on site or nearby, and then, make the barn out of it. So, pretty cool. So thank you, Ron. Another Ron. This is Ron Paulovits. He's been on the show in the past, and this kind of made me smile. He showed me this umbrella stand that he made back when he was living in Florida. Well, he moved to Arizona, so they don't have a whole lot of need for umbrellas in the rain. I guess you could have an umbrella for the sun, right? But, he felt kind of silly. What am I going to do with this umbrella stand? And this was a great opportunity for him to become creative. And he changed it from the umbrella stand to this plant stand. And that is, again, one of the things I love is we sometimes don't have a book or don't have a magazine to follow the plans to. We have to use this. And that's exactly what Ron did. And he found a new purpose for it in his new home. And it looks great. So thank you, Ron. Roy Beckner. Roy sent in this gliding rocker. And I forgot who he said he made it for. Gosh, I thought he said he made it for his friends. But nonetheless, I thought it was ingenious, the simplicity of how that glider works. Now, I imagine it's not as precise as like the gliders that have the mechanical mechanisms underneath, because I imagine with the chain, if you don't get your swinging in sync, it can get a little squirrely on you. But nonetheless, pretty cool. And it looks like it's a pretty simple build that, most of us could probably do over a weekend. But at any rate, I just thought it was really cool, the use of chains. I never thought of that. So thank you, Roy. Thanks for sending that in. That's page 2. Okay, we have Andrew Pritchard. Now, Andrew has been for a while building this cabinet. Those of you who have been following the show have been watching the whole progress. I love the progress of it. And I think last week he made some of his own crown molding. And so this week he's applying it on there. And Andrew had a small question about some gaps in fine-tuning the molding. And so I'm going to address that on Wednesday. I already gave him the answer in the email, but I will give you all the rest of the answer on Wednesday, so tune in for that. But nonetheless, what I really like about this project, Andrew designed it from scratch himself. He's been building it, and he's had some complications, some problems that have arisen, but just like with others, he found it as an opportunity to expand and to add things to it. And it's really coming along nice. I'm getting more and more excited to see the end result. So thanks, Andrew. Bill Crispin. Bill sent in some cabinet doors that he's making for a friend's kitchen. He doesn't quite have the luxury of having a large shop, and if you do cabinets, you definitely need a big place. So he has them out there in the driveway. He's going to be painting them. And I was telling Bill that I have a couple of customers that I build cabinet doors and drawer fronts and drawers for on a fairly regular basis. And they're boring jobs to do. I mean, spending all day for a couple of days just making doors. It's pretty boring. But I will say that anyone who's interested in doing woodworking for some money, you can get decent money for doing doors. But I hate doing repetitive, same projects always. I always like to do something for my clients that are different. But we got to pay the bills, right? It's a nice job, Bill. Mr. Moe. Mr. Moe is making a step stool for his wife. He said his wife has some health issues, and getting to some higher things in the kitchen is difficult, so he's making a step stool. And you can see on here it's going to have a handle, and that way you don't have to bend over to get the stool. You just grab the handle and set the stool where you want and then step on it. And oddly enough, I'm gonna be, right? 'Cause I'm always saying that. I'm gonna be making one for my wife, because in the new house the cabinets are taller, and I wouldn't call my wife short, but well, she is to me, and she calls me tall, so I guess that works out well. But she needs something to step on to get to it, so I'm gonna make one for her. And oddly enough, one of my clients that I'm doing some work on a kitchen with, when I told him about that, he now wants one for his wife. So it looks like I'm going to be making two. Anyhow, thanks for that, Mr. Moe, and show us more photos as it progresses. Now we have Vincent Quinn. Now, Vincent probably doesn't know that he's going to be on the show. No, his brother Philip, who regularly sends in some work. Philip really likes to make cutting boards. Evidently, his brother Vincent likes to make these rustic style lamps and plant holders, and so Philip sent these in to me, but this is actually Vincent's work. And I love rustic. In fact, in my new home, one of the rooms is primarily rustic furniture, so pretty cool stuff there. I might be borrowing a couple of ideas from that, so thank you, Vincent, and thank you, Philip, for sending that in for your brother. Hopefully he doesn't hate me for that. And finishing up our entries this week is none other than the Duck. Yep, the Duck said that he wasn't really planning on making a project. He was just making a simple little stool for his friend so they could sit outside and put their drinks on it and enjoy a nice, cool evening together. And after he gave it to his friend, I think he said they used it one time, and then the friend's wife confiscated the step stool and made it her own, and it's now in the house. But it is kind of a cute little stool there, so the Duck maybe should consider making another one. So anyhow, that was the entries for this week. Since we had some special links to like the Quilts for Valor and the Beads of Courage, I thought I'd just give a reminder out there what Rob Cosman does. I'm sure I don't have to explain who Rob is. He's got a name and a reputation that far exceeds most woodworkers out there. But Rob has his own organization, the Purple Heart Project, to where they take in vets, and vets that are troubled, vets that are having problems fitting back in, having problems finding purpose in life, and he takes them for a week. He not only shows them woodworking, but he sends each of them home with about $2,000 worth of tools, so when they return home, they can continue doing what they've learned. And he does this about twice a year. But as most of you know, flying people in, housing them for a week, the material, the tools, it costs money. So if anyone out there would like to donate some money to Rob's cause, I've given some, and I know a lot of others have, but in order for him to keep doing this and keep doing it on a regular basis, he needs more help. So if you can't contribute, would you please possibly consider passing it on to someone that you know that might be able to help? So I appreciate that. We also had on the show this week a couple of the viewers make some mallets, and oddly enough, I got a couple of mallets in the mail this week. And these mallets are stunningly beautiful. Burled maple on it for the head. Looks like has some rustic maple and some walnut on it. It even has my name on the top. I can't wait to use these. I'm almost afraid to use these because they're so nice. But this was a gracious gift from Jerill Vance. He's over there. Well, you know what? I'll explain more about it. I'll put his link at the bottom. But Gerald's a phenomenal woodworker, and he's got the, let's see, the Appalachian Heritage Wood Shop. So I'll put that link down there below. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about these and what Gerald is up to. And actually, him and I are going to be doing something together in the upcoming months. So it's really cool. But I had to give a special shout out to him. My jaw dropped when I got these in the mail. They're just great. So thank you, Gerald. I'd also like to make mention to one of our viewers to the show. Ray King is going to be going in for a quadruple bypass. So if you would like to leave some comments below wishing him some well wishes and thoughts, you know, let's not forget our viewers, because I feel like we have our own little community together here. We're all getting to know each other. So Ray, I wish you the best of luck, speedy recovery, and don't push yourself. Listen to your body. Okay, and you probably saw from the beginning we had some really cool new opening graphics. So I do want to give a shout out to Todd Productions there. He helps me with the design for like business cards, flyers, websites, videos. He gives me a lot of tips on things, and so I want to put a link in the description to him. A lot of links this week for you guys. There's a lot of stuff for you folks. But at any rate, I want to thank him for that. And don't forget, coming up on Wednesday's show, we will be doing what's going on with me in my shop, be answering some viewer emails. I think we've got some great questions this week. And, I'm going to be telling you about the upcoming videos that we'll be doing. So, okay, until then, thanks for watching, and keep on dancing. Hey folks, coming at you from behind my shop here, and I forgot to tell you that if you want your pictures on the show, or if you want your emails answered, feel free to send them to woodchoppintime@gmail.com, and I will do my best to reply to each and every one of them. Okay, until then, keep on dancing.